Ravenspeaker on the phone here. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, so let me just turn this down. And thanks again for calling and just get you to introduce yourself. I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that have been happening up in Seattle that you've been instrumental of bringing the people together. So.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me on the program, Raven. It's kind of interesting to talk to another guy named Raven. My name is Alaskan, which is roughly Ravenspeaker. It doesn't mean exactly that, but pretty close. And English name, Robert Frederiksen. And we, a few of us organized a group called Natives Rising, and it's intended to be a movement. So, yes, we're up in Seattle now, but frankly, we intend to be everywhere very soon, doing the things that we're doing, and hopefully your listeners will pick up on what our purposes are and realize that they would like to be a part of it.
Absolutely. So can we talk about some of the events that you've that you put on up there?
Sure. Sure. The first sort of wave, I guess you would call it, of generating just some awareness that we exist is this storytelling tour. Solana Booth and I are both traditional storytellers, and she's, my co-founder of Natives Rising. And we figured that a way to get out there and raise some awareness was to do what we do. And we want it to be a little different. So we decided that these events would be stories that people don't hear. There's certain stories that get told over and over again, and when you go hear a story, a storyteller, you can kind of bet that one of these stories that you've heard 100 times is going to be one of the stories that you hear. So we decided to do stories you've never heard before. And we're doing this on a kind of a rotating basis so that, like today we were at the Duwamish Longhouse, for instance. When we come back to the Duwamish Longhouse in a few weeks, it'll be a completely different set of stories so that you can come back again and again and again, and you will not hear the same stories. And none of the stories you hear will be stories you've heard before. So we're pretty excited about that.
It's exciting because we were just talking to Harvest Moon, who's a storyteller, and how important it is for the stories to be told.
Yeah.
And how, it's a part of the healing
Mm-hmm.
process of the stories, and how when you hear a story or a smell or a sound brings us back to that time, and to tell and also the first people's stories are really important because they always have they bring us back to how to walk on Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the healing is, and we as people, we need to continue to hear these stories so we make a better choice.
Oh, absolutely, and I love the way you put that, to walk on Mother Earth, because Mother Earth's a little different everywhere you go. So if you're living in Western Washington, for example, there is the correct, balanced way to live in Western Washington. And if you don't know anything about how people who've lived here for 10,000 years have managed it, you're going to mess things up. And so, knowing those stories and knowing how to really connect with life waves that have been going on for generations and generations in that area, it's so important. And the only way you can get that is through stories. Stories are the transmission of culture. And we're very excited about it. The goal that we have is to reach 20,000 non-Indians. I mean, we don't care if 250,000 Indians show up. We'll take as many of our own people as we possibly can, because we love to share with our own people. But we really want non-Indians to come and hear the stories, because this will deal with the invisibility issue. The issue of non-Native people just like having almost no concept that we exist, or that if we exist, a long time ago, in a Hollywood movie or something. But that we're real, and that we have contributed to the American culture in ways that most Americans don't even know or understand. There's a reason why American culture doesn't look like European culture, and the white folks, they don't even know why. And we're a big part of that reason.
Yeah. Well, you hit for me, the right to the point. Like I was just talking about how important it is, even a Native people. I'm not from here, so I wanna be able to act in a respectful way on Mother Earth, on this part of the planet. And,
Right.
And so how do I conduct myself that way? I need to listen. I need to hear the stories. I need to sit with the elders. All these things. And then also what you were saying, and that most people that I'm not going to say all of it, but I come to a lot of people that do not understand that we're still here.
Yeah.
And so it's important for them to see and to hear. And then the other point that I wanted to get, why I can't listen in my head, is that Native people were the first ecologists.
Right.
And through these stories, they tell you how to live. And depending on where you are on Mother Earth, they'll have a story for it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's the thing that I hear in the stories when you're speaking about that is balance and doing everything honorably. If there's no honorable justification for hunting in a particular way, you don't do it. The idea that, if I need 2 deer and I take 4, there's something wrong there. That's in the story. It's definitely there. And people who say that, well, that's not really culture, we weren't environmentalists. Well, no, we weren't environmentalists the way environmentalists are today, but we certainly understood balance, and that it was dishonorable to treat our mother in such a such an out of balance fashion,
yeah, we walked with her, not just on her.
Exactly. So the other reason why we're doing this, I mean, the events themselves are their own purpose, Raven. I mean, the events themselves we think are pretty exciting because we're sharing culture, and that's always valuable. But behind it, the underlying reason behind it is natives rising. And, if you'll permit me, I'd love to just explain that for just a second.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You see, it kind of starts with something that we all know about, but, we're not really talking about a lot, and that's the situation with all of our young people who are committing suicide. That sort of jump-started the need to find answers. Why is this happening? And then we realized that, well, it's actually happening in a lot of different ways because, a lot of our kids are, for example, dropping out of school. A lot of our older people are suffering horrible addictions. And we find that there's a root to all of that. And, it's all the same thing. These are different symptoms of the same disease. And what that disease is despair and hopelessness, and people not living the life that their Creator put them on this earth to live. And not in many cases not even knowing how to figure out and find out how to be who they're supposed to be. So, so what we're trying to accomplish here is connecting people to who they really are.
Yeah.
And who they really are is not some basket case who can't, make their dreams come true. That's not, our Creator did not create Indian people to be at the bottom of society's pile. That was not His plan. That is not who we are. We're not beneath everyone else. We are the first people. That's an honored and treasured thing. And we're not fulfilling our role in society. We're not being what we're supposed to be. And I think that, if a guy's supposed to be a chef, for example, and you convince him that he can't be a chef, he's going to be pretty miserable, right? And he's going to be maybe confused, and he's going to be despairing because the thing that gives him purpose and meaning, he's not allowed to be it. Or even if he's allowed to be it, he doesn't think that he can because he's been convinced. Yeah. And in my mind, first and foremost, the thing that we've been convinced that we can't be is Indians. We've been convinced that we have to assimilate. And even those of us who resist the idea that we're assimilating, a lot of us are still pretty assimilated in a lot of unconscious ways. I think it's pretty reasonable to be a totally modern person living in the 21st century and, driving cars and this and that and the other, but still being 100% in everything that you do connected to your identity as a Native person. And just go ahead and be that and not have to explain or excuse it to anybody. If your neighbor doesn't like that you smudge or something like that, that's your neighbor's problem. It isn't your problem. These kinds of ideas. Just go ahead and be Native in everything that you do. And there's a lot of unconscious patterns that some of us have picked up. I would actually say most of us have picked up that sort of takes us away from